This is the Envista, an all-new subcompact coupe SUV from Buick. The Envista is now Buick's entry-level model, starting at just $23,450. A fully loaded Avenir like you see here is not that much more than $31,000. That's a pretty good price. Under the hood, Buick has fitted the Envista with a 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that makes 137 horsepower. All Envistas are front-wheel drive. Driving the Buick Envista, now when you hear the powertrain of this car, 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that makes 136 horsepower, you're probably thinking it's very slow, and that's actually not the case. It makes 162 pound-feet of torque, so this vehicle is actually pretty peppy because it is a subcompact crossover, and it actually gets up and goes. And since it's a 6-speed automatic transmission, it doesn't just hang in the high RPMs like a CVT would. The Envista is a hugely important vehicle for Buick as it seeks to attract younger buyers and define itself for years to come. The coupe design of the Envista is the car's defining characteristic, and I think Buick pulled it off quite well. I'm not normally a fan of these coupe SUVs, but I think the impractical nature of this body style pairs well with the old money aesthetic, at least an affordable way, of Buick. I think the Envista looks pretty sharp. I'm also a huge fan of the new Tri-Shield Buick logo. I think it looks great, sleek, and modern, and really helps bring the brand into the 2020s. That paired with the new Envista font for the new Envista logo, I think also helps define the car as luxurious and modern. Now, one of the main detriments to coupeifying a crossover is rear seat headroom, and you do feel it a little bit in the Buick Envista. I am 6'2" and sitting behind my ideal driving position. I have plenty of foot room, plenty of knee room, but when I try to sit upright, my head is pressed up against the ceiling. Now, if I slouch a little bit, it is fine, and I could sit back here for a few hours at a time, but know that taller passengers will feel a little more cramped in this Envista than, say, an Encore GX. Buick has the difficult task of trying to make vehicles that are more luxurious than their Chevy counterparts, but leaving room for Cadillac to still come in as the true luxury brand. And I think the Envista they did a good job with the Envista in hitting that middle ground. They've taken the Trax and just made it that much more premium. There are 3 main things that I noticed that are different from the Chevy Trax, because this has the same platform, the same powertrain that the Chevy Trax does. One is the sound. It is a lot quieter in here than the Chevy Trax. Not saying that the Chevy Trax is a loud vehicle on the inside, but this has active noise cancellation, acoustic laminated glass, and it is impressively quiet in here for the price of the vehicle. On the freeway at going 75, 80 miles an hour, you can easily have a conversation with your passengers. It is a very insulated cabin. And that also means that the 3-cylinder, which isn't the best sounding engine on the market, doesn't actually sound that bad because you are very insulated from it. The second thing that is different between the Envista and the Trax is the suspension. It is softer, it is a little wallowier, it leans a little more in the bend, so it's not as much of a sports car feeling as much as a Chevy Trax feels like a sports car, but it is definitely more fitting of the Buick brand. It feels very floaty, very comfortable, very premium, and it really fits the name Buick quite well. And the third difference is this interior. It definitely does feel a little more premium in here than the Chevy Trax. When I was talking with some of the designers, they said Chevy is a very bold, angular, and aggressive brand, where Buick is a little softer, a little more rounded, and you feel that in this cabin. These 11-inch and 8-inch screens that are under one pane of glass have this like curved element on the sides, and there's flowing ovular shapes all throughout the interior. It feels very friendly, very approachable, very comfortable, and very Buick. However, it is not a perfect vehicle. Starting at $23,450 and maxing out at $31,000, they had to leave some things out. So even in this fully loaded Avenir trim that I'm driving right now, you do not get cooled seats. You do not get lane centering technology. You don't get Super Cruise by any means. You don't get a virtual rearview mirror. You have a standard panoramic sunroof. Front wheel drive is the only option on the Envista. You have to go up to an Encore GX if you want all-wheel drive. And some of the materials, it's not that hard to find scratchy black plastics. Now, I totally understand why a $31,000 car wouldn't have all those features I just mentioned, but this is labeled an Avenir. An Avenir is supposed to be Buick's most luxurious vehicles. And the fact that they are selling now the Envista Avenir without all of those features, I feel like detracts a little bit from the Avenir name. If I were Buick, I would have added a few more of those features into the Buick Envista Avenir, or I wouldn't have called this an Avenir and come up with some other trim level for this model. Overall, I'm very impressed by how the Buick Envista drives. There is a dearth of affordable cars on the market right now, and the fact that Buick was able to come out with a $23,450 car that drives as well as this does, that is as refined as this vehicle is very impressive. Yes, people will complain that it doesn't have all-wheel drive, and yes, people will complain that it has a 3-cylinder, but if you actually get behind the wheel and drive this car, you're gonna figure out quite quickly that it's actually more than enough car for most people. I think that if Buick can market the Envista correctly, it will do very well. There is a perception of Buick as being an old person's brand, as being a brand that only elderly people drive. And if Buick can convince consumers that this is a car for everyone, which it is, I think it will fly off the shelves. It is an extraordinarily impressive vehicle for the price. Well done, Buick. So that's the first ever 2024 Buick Envista. It's an all-new model from an all-new Buick. It offers an incredibly refined driving experience for such a low price, and I think it'll do really well for the brand. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.